Welcome back to Movies Buzz. Today I will show you an action thriller film from 2008 titled Terra Nova. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Jilin is looking for a safe place to camp on the icy hills of a desolate island. He wanders for miles until he stumbles and falls into a frigid river, but he manages to climb out and resume his trek after drifting away for a bit. When he becomes too exhausted to continue, he takes a break against a large rock, eats a flower, and reflects on how it all began. Jilin is serving a life sentence for the assassination of 6 men when he is escorted to meet the prison governor one afternoon and asked what he dreams about. He isn't the only one dealing with this. Other of his fellow inmates have been summoned to the governor's office and asked the same question. Talia wants to follow the growth of the space station, and Moryak wants to see the sea. Yakut wants to see the battle with China. Abazyanka refuses to speak. Abazyun wants to work in this prison and become a governor. And Sipa wants to see women again, but Jilin's response is never revealed. The governor informs them that they have been chosen to be moved to a penal colony, and all of the inmates are boarded on a ship shortly after. The convicts are divided into groups and placed in cells, just like in a real prison, albeit Abazyun acts like he is the boss and even kills a man to take his bed. When the hatch is eventually closed and the boat departs, the inmates become panicked, believing that this is all a setup to let them die at sea. Jilin recalls a chat he had with Sipa in prison as the men became more violent. Sipa had significant mental disorders and would constantly draw on the wall and talk rubbish, but on that particular day, he described heaven and hell as both being full and a third purgatory-like location being created for people like them. Jilin initially dismissed it as more of his typical drivel, but he's beginning to realize the value of it now. After a while, everyone relaxes and attempts to pass the time by speaking and eating, but in the middle of the voyage, a gang breaks free from one of the cells in search of their compatriot. Abazyun appears to be negotiating solely to kill the man they're looking for, sparking a riot in which prisoners on both sides begin striking and killing each other through the bars, with the exception of Steri, an elderly man who remains behind praying. The struggle does not last long, though, as the guards come and, after stopping them with a warning shot, throw a sleeping gas grenade to knock them out. They eventually arrive on a deserted island, where the inmates are placed in numbered shackles and left on the beach to listen to what Mr. Olafsson and Marta, the project's leaders, have to say. Prisons have been running out of space to house such large numbers of criminals since the death sentence became prohibited in all nations, which is why the Russian government has provided this property to start this project, which will be supported by various foreign organizations. Starting today, the convicts are colonists living under their care, and they are given everything they need to survive, including 3 months' worth of food. A satellite will keep an eye on them at all times, and there are also some communication buoys nearby. They can take a boat to one of them and click the red button to request anything. If a green light emerges, it implies the request has been accepted. Abazyun is irritated by the prospect of being monitored 24 hours a day, so he throws a large rock in protest, but the guards immediately move him back with warning shots. Marta notes that the buoys can also be used to request that someone quit the project by stating their name and the reason for their request. They will be sent back to prison if they do so. By placing the buoys in the sea, rather than on the beach, they ensure that the decision to risk going on a boat is carefully considered. The guards drop a handful of keys on the sand before leaving, saying that they are numbered to match their handcuffs. The inmates rush towards them and begin fighting over them, while Jilin and Sipa remain safe behind them, only picking up the keys that the others drop. Steri also decides to stay behind and see how a gang forms a line around the keys to keep their rivals out, and how another group goes to the crates the guards left to pick up weapons and attack the audience. Ali's group eventually gains control of the situation. Before choosing a man to go out on the boat, Ali gets a jacket and excellent shoes for himself and Steri, but as soon as he does, the group attacks, and the fight begins all over again. The conflict results in the deaths of dozens of men. Moryak kills Ali with a rock, Abazyun kills Steri with a rock, and the 3 men who board a boat to reach the buoy fall into the water and drown. All of the surviving inmates walk to the warehouse to begin distributing the supplies, and Abazyun uses the equipment he finds to forcefully unlock his cuffs. While listening to Sipa say that there is no way the food will last 3 months, Jilin packs a bag of supplies and grabs a jacket, then he departs the area to survive on his own and perhaps find a way out of the island, returning us to the beginning of the story. Jilin wanders the island until he finds a location with no snow and a rocky formation that will provide some cover, so he sits down and looks at a photograph of his family that he has hidden in his prison outfit. He cries himself to sleep because he misses them so much. He wakes up later when he hears squealing. It turns out that the supplies were stocked with rodents, which are now chewing through his food and bag. When it begins to rain, Jilin seeks refuge beneath the rock formation he had previously seen, building a fire for warmth and heating some water. When the rain stops, he catches a bird and roasts it over the fire, which is when Sippa discovers him. He tries to steal his knife while chatting with him, but Jilin notices him and returns it. Sippa offers some salt and his assistance in exchange for some meat, which Xiling accepts, so Sippa goes to get additional wood and notices Jilin's family portrait hung on the rocks, prompting him to kiss Jilin's wife. They then share the bird, and once they've finished eating, Sippa walks to the brink of the cliff, expressing that he's terrified to leap. He asks Jilin why he won't die, and Jilin answers that it's because he wants to be buried next to his family, which he won't be able to do if he dies on the island. When Jilin wakes up, he discovers Sippa has stolen the painting and is using it as an inspiration for his depravity. Jilin beats him up and pushes him off the cliff, but Sippa survives because he doesn't fall into the ocean. Instead, he lands on a hill beneath the cliff. Despite their differences, they continue to travel together as they explore the island. While Jilin tries to fish, Sippa amuses himself with the rubbish he finds in the water. The only living thing they find in the water is some kind of aquatic centipede, which freaks Sippa out. Jilin is surprised to discover a piece of an aircraft among the rocks while searching for it. It only takes a little more climbing up the hill to find the full plane, which gives him some optimism because he used to be a pilot and could fly it. However, 2 men are insufficient to carry it, so they return to their refuge for the time being. Jilin lights a fire with some matches he took from the warehouse, but something in them causes the smoke to be extremely hazardous. He walks away from the fire, dragging a sleeping Sippa behind him, who refuses to wake up at first. It takes a few shakes from Jilin for him to regain awareness, but his mouth continues to spew nonsense, and Jilin believes the cold is about to kill them both. The 2 men decide to return to the base in the hopes of stealing some coal. Life hasn't been easy for everyone back at the base. Abazyun and his group are in charge of maintaining a routine while sharing resources, and Abazyun even requests that they refer to him as governor. They confine everyone who isn't in their team in the barracks and only let them out for a walk in an enclosed area, comparable to a prison, while Estenitz yells at them from the watchtower. When they return, they must flee, because whoever is last is slaughtered and then used as food. Jilin and Sippa make it to the coal box and discover the charred remains of a fire. They're almost frozen after walking for so long, so they can't help but fall asleep next to the fire. But Sippa is startled awake when he hears noises. The gang is on their way over with their newest prisoner for roasting. He hides behind a boulder, but Jilin is still out there, so he returns to save him. However, he isn't quick enough, and Abazyun's men find and catch both. The 2 of them are returned to base, where Abazyun attempts to determine their penalty for fleeing with supplies when they first arrived. When Yakut tries to remind them that they were on their side during the ship battle, Estenitz accuses him of interfering. Yakut responds by beating him, prompting the entire gang to hit him again, earning Yakut a spot in the barracks alongside Jilin and Sippa. They walk around for a bit, and when Estenitz says it's time to go, Jilin refuses to leave, but Sippa returns and drags him inside with him. They can only watch as the last guy standing is apprehended and chained to a pole, pleading for water as his final desire, so Sippa takes pity on him and brings a cup to his lips before he is slain. The gang afterwards discusses the possibility of rebelling before retiring to bed. They're hesitant because it could be harmful, but Shram persuades them that it's worth a shot. Talia shows up as Yankit the next morning, that he's set up a concealed trap in his workshop to catch any potential robbers. Estenitz tries to get the group back inside after his daily walk to start the regular game, but only 2 men run. The rest stand back and come together, while Yakut tosses a rock at Estenitz to silence him. Jilin approaches Abazyun and proposes a deal. If he lets them go to the buoy and ask for food, he'll tell him where the plane he discovered is. Abazyun accepts and lets them out via the gate. While Talia and Jilin board the boat with 2 other men, Abazyun inquires about Jilin, learning that he was a pilot, that his family died in a plane crash, and that he was imprisoned for murdering flight dispatchers at the airport with a rifle. Abazyun believes Jilin has a guilty conscience because the incident was classified as murder in a state of extreme emotional tension. He instructs the group to return to the barracks as soon as the boat has traveled far enough, effectively cancelling his arrangement. When Yakut tries to confront them, he is slain right away, so Abazyun takes another man and declares the game is back on. Because Abazyun's men are armed, the gang can only return to the barracks by running. Meanwhile, at sea, one of the soldiers slips overboard, but he is caught in time and dragged back up. Talia arrives at the buoy and requests assistance, but it is broken, and none of his equipment will help. They return to the coast, and Jolin informs Abazyun that food is on its way, but Abazyun is skeptical because no green light of confirmation has been given. Talia reminds him of the plane's existence, which Abazyun doesn't believe, but it motivates Arbazyanka to wander around with his arms outstretched like one. Abazyun is distracted by this and takes him by the neck, giving Talia the opportunity to attack him from behind and murder him. He watches Amurbek and Arzanov, two other members of his gang, kill the rest of his crew and watch Estonets flee before they can arrest him. They ask Jolin what they should do next, and he tells them to free the soldiers from the barracks because he swears food is on its way, but they couldn't see it because the light was damaged. The men are hesitant, reminding him that they have enough bodies to eat later, but Talia believes they should be buried now. Amurbek and Arzanov finally accept it after Jolin tells him about the plan. They release the prisoners and inform them that the food will arrive in a few days, but that they will no longer be using each other as food, so everyone must remain calm and cooperative. They'll also dispatch a team to recover the plane, which they'll store in a hangar they'll construct and gradually fix in order to depart later. Sipa abruptly stops their plans, declaring that there is no satellite and writing in So's message using sand and 3 bodies. The Estonets return to the base later, and because of the new laws requiring them to maintain the peace, they decide to overlook what he's done to them for the time being and share their food with him regardless. When Jolin leads a group of men to the plane, their spirits soar as they realize he's been speaking the truth. They disassemble it for easy transportation and return the pieces to base together. Marta and a group of guards eventually arrive on the island. They use gas to keep the men away, but they do let Jolin chat with her and go over the list of requests they've made. She's perplexed as to why they need gas, but he explains that it's for the generators, which are supposed to be wind-powered but don't work during the polar night. In reality, they want the plane's fuel. Marta explains that their satellite is infrared, so they perceive heat, and Jolin takes the opportunity to inquire why they didn't respond to Sipa's So's message. As a result, they can find people and stoves but not words. She also wants to know what others were doing a few days ago so far away from the base, and he says they were fishing. They don't believe him because there aren't any fish in the vicinity, so he lies again and claims they've been eating centipede-like animals, which she finds alarming. They also want to know how many of the original 206 colonists are still alive, something Jolin believes they should be able to figure out using their satellite. He informs them that there are 87 people remaining, many of whom are sick, but no one wants to abandon the mission and return to prison. Mart tells Jolin that he has the right to one personal request before he leaves, so he hands her a couple of sheets of paper and asks her to look after the group well. Jolin and his men test the gas in the plane hidden in the hangar after the guards have left the new supplies and gladly confirm that it works. As the guards and Marta depart the island, they see a new batch of American inmates arriving. These inmates have a commander as well, a very massive man with whom Jolin wants to shake hands. The man refuses to take it and instead punches Jolin, resulting in a brawl between the two. The fight is fierce, and no one hesitates to go for the kill, so Sipa takes Jolin into the workshop with him. One of the Americans attempts to pursue them, but he slips into Talia's trap and dies instantly. Arzanov is overcome by the American leader, but before he can be killed, Amurbek intervenes and kills the huge man instead, while the buildings around them burn. The project's leaders are keeping an eye on everything. Marta calls the central office and is told to proceed with Code Naked Island, where a group of guards shoots all the reminder prisoners as Marta burns Jolin's letters. Fortunately, Jolin, Sipa, Arzanov, and Talia are still alive because they hid in the mountains or the hangar. They push the plane out together, but just as they're about to board, Sipa says farewell and rushes to the hills so he can leap into the water without fear. The final trio boards the plane, and Jolin successfully pilots it to take off, despite the guards' attempts to shoot it down. Jolin's 2 companions are killed, but Jolin escapes the gunshots and flies away into the unknown. Here are 2 more films you should watch next.